Hello, TES friends. Mrs. Dauberman here. I am here to talk about COVID-19. I know you've all heard of it, and it's something that we might be tired of hearing about, but it is still something that's going on, and I just want to have a real talk about it. Okay, so Mr. Gambo is going to be joining us later on in the video as well, but we're just going to talk about COVID-19, the coronavirus, what this is, what we're doing about it, how it makes us feel, and basically just everything related to COVID. Okay, so what we know, the coronavirus is a germ or a virus, right? It causes COVID-19. Okay, and COVID-19 is an infection of the respiratory tract, which is everything that has to do with breathing, right? So it could be nose, throat, lungs, okay? Everything that has to do with your breathing, all right? So we know that it can affect people differently. We know that if you're exposed to this germ, that it can take up to 2 weeks or 14 days for you to show symptoms that you even have it, okay? So you could have it and we don't even know. Many of the symptoms include, but not limited to, okay, fever, cough, shortness of breath, headache, loss of taste and smell. We've heard of all kinds of symptoms that could have to do with COVID-19, okay, but those are the main ones. But we know that there are many that are out there, okay? Now, the hardest part about this is that this is kind of scary, right? None of us want to get sick. Okay, so it is very difficult, but we are living during a pandemic. And what is a pandemic? That is when a disease affects a bunch of people. Okay, so something like this hasn't happened in a long time. The most severe recent pandemic was over 100 years ago, the flu pandemic in 1918, and we're in 2020. Okay, that was over 100 years ago. So something like this hasn't happened in a long time, and none of us have lived through this. Okay, so we're all experiencing this together and dealing with it together. So let's find out then. We know the safety precautions that we're all taking, right? We all know that if we wear masks, that helps us, okay, to keep our germs to ourselves and not spread them. We know that distancing, staying apart, the 6 feet, right, helps, okay? We know that hand washing and hand sanitizer helps. And we know that we should stay home if we don't feel well, right? These are the precautions that we're told to take because this will help decrease the spread of germs. So, at school, obviously, we're following these safety precautions, right? And so we want to talk about how we can be Talmadge Gold in regards to COVID, okay? So being Talmadge Gold means that we are safe, we are responsible, we are respectful, and we are engaged. Now, safe, responsible, and respectful definitely apply to COVID, okay? Engaged, not so much, right? But let's talk about those first three. So, we know then at school, we are being safe and responsible because we are following all these safety protocols, right? We are wearing our masks. You see Mrs. Davis in the middle of the screen here. Okay, she has her mask. It's covering her mouth and her nose, right? It's covering everything on her face. Okay, so she's wearing her mask and she's wearing it appropriately. That's safe, that's responsible, right? We also have mask breaks at school. Okay, so times where it's safe to take our mask off, but we have to remember during those mask breaks that we still have to stay apart and keep our distance, right? So we have distancing, like I just said, at all times possible. We want to stay those 6 feet apart, okay? Because that, even with the mask, that is supposed to help us from spreading germs, right? But staying apart absolutely helps us spread germs, right? If we're not even close to each other, then the germs can't spread. Okay, so hand washing and hand sanitizer, you guys have that all over the building. And then staying home if you're not feeling well, right? Also, let's talk about more about how we're being safe and responsible at school. So we're keeping social distance. I already mentioned that. And another way that we're doing that is we have stairways that are one way, right? So maybe at a certain time, the stairway is up only, the other stairway is down only. This way, nobody's crossing paths and getting too close. Okay. We have some hallways that are maybe one way where we have arrows to show you which way to go. We also have a limited number of kids in the bathroom at one time, right? So this can also ensure that we have enough space to stay separate and to keep our distance, okay? Of course, if you're waiting in line anywhere, whether it's going to the buses or in your classroom, you probably have spots on the floor, right? To kind of say, hey, stand here and you'll be far enough away from the next person, okay? Those are great reminders and we have to make sure that we're following those. The other thing is in the classroom, right? Your spots or your desks are separate, okay, and they're kept apart. Now, the one thing I do want to talk about with this in the classroom is if we are being safe and responsible. You see on the picture on the right here, these students in Mrs. Nagy's class are sitting on their spot, right? They have their distance, they're away from each other physically, okay, so that they can't spread germs. They all have their masks on as well. We just can't see that. But let's say that our friend here in the back in this pink and black jacket, okay, let's say that she decides to lay down, okay, instead of sitting up on her spot. She lays down, right? So she's laying and her head is in between these two friends. Is she keeping the distance that she should to not spread germs if she lays down like that on the carpet? Think about that for a minute. So if this friend in the pink and black jacket, instead of sitting on her spot, she decides to lay down and her head is then in between the two friends in front of her. Is she keeping a safe distance to keep her germs to herself? I would say no, right? These spots on the carpet are here for a reason. They're saying, hey, stay here and you'll be far enough away. Okay, but if you lay down and stretch yourself out or across multiple spots, then you're not keeping your distance. Okay, so if we are going to be safe and responsible in the classroom with these safety protocols and make sure we're keeping our germs to ourselves, then we have to do exactly what we know we need to do, right? We need to sit on our spot because if we lay down, then we're not keeping that distance anymore. Okay, so that's very, very important. So we know that it's safe to keep the distance and it's responsible of us to do what we're supposed to do and to do our job, which is to keep that distance. Okay, so that is what it looks like to be Talmadge Gold. Now, there's one more piece to Talmadge Gold that Mr. Gambo is going to talk about, and that is being respectful. We talked about being safe, we talked about being responsible. So let's find out what it means to be respectful in terms of COVID. Here's Mr. Gambo.
All right, I'm here to talk to you guys about being Talmadge Gold in terms of being respectful with everything that we have going on with COVID right now. So, if we're being respectful, we're talking about considering each other's feelings, values, and beliefs, even if that means that their feelings, values, beliefs, and even their opinions are different than ours. So, if somebody is making me feel badly because I think that it's hard to wear my mask all day, they're not being respectful of me. And if I'm treating them poorly because they forget which stairwell is the up stairwell and which stairwell is the down stairwell, I'm not treating someone how I want to be treated. And that is a super important rule that we should kind of go by because I've never met anybody, student or staff, in my whole life that can tell me I like being disrespected. Nobody likes being treated disrespectfully, so we have to remember that we have to be respectful towards everybody, even when they're different than us or even when they think differently than us. So another piece of being respectful is privacy. Everybody has the right to privacy. So if there's a student or a staff member that is not here at school, it is not your job to figure out why. If you need to know why somebody is not here at school, you will be informed or you will be told why that person is not here. So if you're not told, chances are that student is sick. Maybe they have COVID or maybe they have another sickness like a cold or the flu or an ear infection. Maybe they are on vacation. Maybe they missed the bus or they overslept and they don't have another way to get here to school. Or maybe they just have a doctor's appointment. They're getting their flu shot or they're going for a checkup. So what is most important right now is that we are respectful towards one another and that we really, really, really respect someone's privacy, because it is not our business when someone is not here at school. So please treat others the way that you want to be treated, and treat everybody with respect and respect their privacy as well.
Right. So Mr. Gambo talked about what being respectful in terms of COVID looks like. So again, there could be so many reasons why somebody is not at school, right? And if you miss school for any reason and you come back, you would not want people just asking you a ton of questions. Well, where were you? Were you sick? You wouldn't want that. Okay. So we have to be respectful and we have to respect people's privacy and we have to know that, hey, there's plenty of reasons or um, there's plenty of reasons why they could have not been here. Okay. So we have to treat others how we want to be treated, and we need to consider their feelings. Okay. So that is what it means to be respectful. So the other important thing, hold on, Mr. Gambo, we already heard from you. All right. So the other important thing to know is that we can be Talmadge Gold even when we're not at school. Okay, so we can be safe, we can be responsible, we can be respectful even when we're not at school. So, in terms of COVID, what this means is that, you know, as we go on break, okay, for the holiday season, for our winter break, COVID is still a thing, it's still out there, okay, germs are still spreading. So, it is important that if we can, we stay home. All right. We avoid large gatherings of people. Okay. Obviously, for the holidays, it's very normal for us to get together with our family. Okay. So it might look different this year. Now, if you do have to go to some kind of gathering or you do get together with your family, you can still follow the guidelines. You can still wear your mask, right? You can still keep distance just like you do at school, right? You're with all your classmates, but you're not super close together. Okay, you can do that with your family as well. Make sure you're washing and sanitizing your hands. Okay. And then, if possible, it might even be better. I mean, it definitely is better if we can be social, but not physically together. So we can still talk to our family. We can still talk to our cousins, our grandparents, whoever it is, but let's use technology to do that. Okay. So we can do it over the phone or on Zoom or on FaceTime, right? So we can use some of these technology pieces to still talk to those who are important to us and who we love, but we're keeping our germs to ourselves and we're making sure we're not spreading those. Okay. So it's very, very important that even though you are not at school, you are still following safety protocols, because anything you do outside of school impacts what happens in school, right? If everybody were to go this holiday season and get together with a bunch of people, not wear masks, not try to stay apart, and we all spread a bunch of germs and then we all come back together, that could be dangerous because we're all bringing a bunch of germs back together, right? So let's make sure that we are Talmadge Gold even outside of school, okay? Let's follow these safety protocols. Let's stay home if we can. Let's be safe. Let's be responsible and let's be respectful. So, COVID-19, how does this make us feel? Mr. Gambo is going to talk to us about this one.
Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about how COVID is making us feel. So quickly, go ahead and take a look at our slide, and you'll notice that we have our zones of regulation poster on here, just as a quick reminder for you as to what our 4 zones are and what you might be feeling in each of those zones, because COVID can kind of make us feel in any of these zones, and it definitely applies to what we have going on in the world right now. So some of the biggest things that I have worked with both students and staff on this school year in terms of COVID is them being worried about getting sick, them being stressed or anxious about being around other people, be it their students or other students, other staff members, or them being sad because things aren't normal. I think we are all in agreement that this year has been one of a kind, and it has not been what we would call normal in any way at all. We have all of the rules that we've already discussed on past slides with the stairs and the masks and how recess works, how the bathrooms work, all of that stuff. So some of the biggest things, again, the worry, the stress, and the anxiety around being with others, and then sadness because things aren't normal. I've also heard a lot of frustration or annoyance about how things aren't normal or how, the rules make everyday living here in the school a little bit difficult for everyone. So some of the signs that you might have in terms of, that worry, the stress, or the sadness or frustration within your body are racing thoughts or the inability to focus on something like the work right in front of you. You might start to have stomach aches, belly aches. You might have headaches. You might feel really sleepy and not feel like you have a lot of energy. You might feel like you just want to cry. Or maybe you'll have difficulty breathing, whether that's a shortness of breath or feeling like you have a pounding heartbeat in your chest. So all of those things are normal feelings for what we have going on with COVID. I've worked with lots of people, like I said, on how we can handle those situations and how we can deal with them. So on our next slide, I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about some of our coping strategies or some of our tools that we can use to feel better about some of those things.
Right. So let's check out what those coping strategies are. Here is Mr. Gambo again.
All right, so we just talked a little bit about how COVID can make us feel both, mentally and physically in our bodies. So what I want to talk to you about now is what we can do with those feelings. What we're going to talk about is going to be a little bit of a refresh from when Mrs. Dauberman and I went over our zones lessons, but they still apply to what we've got going on here with COVID. So we can talk to a trusted adult or a friend. Talking to friends for you guys can be super important because it'll give you somebody that's your same age or close to the same age that probably thinks and feels a lot of the same things that you think and feel. And it can be beneficial to speak with somebody that lets you know that you're not the only one that thinks or feels what you think and feel. And then there's a huge list of adults that you guys can talk with. Obviously, your teachers are one. Your school counselor is one. It's my specialty to speak with students about their feelings and to hopefully, listen to and help fix some of the things that you guys are going through. And then we have 3 principals that are kind of responsible for making sure that everybody feels safe and comfortable while they're here in the building. So those are 4 groups of people that you can chat with or talk to hopefully make you feel a little bit better. We can also take a moment to do a breathing exercise or a breathing activity. We can find a quiet space to kind of get our head right and get away from all of our COVID thoughts. We can focus on having positive or happy thoughts. Maybe we are thinking about things that are exciting or things that we're looking forward to after school. We can have positive affirmations, which are words that we can either give to somebody or receive from somebody. And that's really just kind words that someone might say to us, that we can say to somebody else, or that we could even say to ourselves. We can take a moment to do a counting exercise or a counting activity. We can take a walk or take a break, get away from, whatever's making us think about COVID. And then we can fidget or squeeze on something, again, to hopefully distract us from, whatever COVID thought is that is clouding up our mind. The last thing that I want to say is that, you're not alone in being stressed or having bad feelings about what's going on right now. I know that I feel that, and a lot of the students and staff that I've worked with feel that. We're all in this together, And Mrs. Dauberman and I really, as counselors, want to make sure that everybody is feeling as good as possible. So if any of you guys really ever need anything, please don't hesitate to ask your teacher if you can come meet with one of us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gambo. So I have just a couple of thoughts to wrap this up. So first of all, I want to say, just like Mr. Gambo said, that this is so hard. The time that we're living in right now is so hard. Things are different. We can't be close to our friends, right? We can't see some of our family. Like whatever it is, things are different and things are hard, and we all feel that. You are not alone in those feelings. Um, I even feel that. Okay, we all do. It's very, very difficult, and none of us have lived through a time like this. So this is new for all of us, and we will get through it together. Okay, that's why we have each other. We all need each other. The other thing that I want to remind you of is make sure that you are being Talmadge Gold, right? Make sure that you're being safe. Make sure you're being responsible. Make sure you're being respectful. Okay, make sure you're following the safety protocols. Make sure that if somebody isn't, okay, or if somebody is too close to you or whatever it might be, you are absolutely allowed to say, hey, can you please take a step back? You're too close to me, okay? And if anybody ever says that to you, it's not to be offensive or to be mean, but they're just saying, hey, I want to remind you, right, that we need to keep our distance, okay? And so you be respectful of the fact that, hey, they feel that you're too close to them and you take a step back and then it's good. Okay. So let's make sure that we are Talmadge Gold, safe, respectful, responsible, both at school and outside of school, because everything we do everywhere during this time matters. Okay. And then the last thing I want to say is something else that can be really hard is that when we have feelings of this sadness or anxiousness or worried that we're going to get sick, those feelings, like Mr. Gambo said, can cause other feelings in our body, right? They can cause the headaches, they can cause our stomach to feel upset. And sometimes we're like, oh no, is that a symptom of COVID, right? So that's really difficult when your feelings are making symptoms in your body that could be a sign of this disease, okay? But if you stop when you start to feel those things and use one of your coping skills, like taking a few breaths or saying positive affirmations to yourself, like, I am okay. I just need to take a moment, right? If you use your coping skills and you stop and use those, then typically those symptoms that you're feeling because of those feelings will go away. Maybe not instantly, okay, but they will go away pretty quickly. Whereas if you were really sick, I feel like those symptoms probably wouldn't go away that quick. Okay, so let's just remember we're going to take this one day at a time. We're going to be Talmadge Gold. We're going to be safe, responsible, and respectful, and we will get through this together.